Are the teachings of Jesus being distorted in today's world? This isn't just idle speculation. It's a question that's been gnawing at the minds of many, especially as spiritual enlightenment has become a sought-after state in our modern era. We live in a time where many are on a quest, a journey to find deeper meaning, purpose, and a sense of connection. In the midst of this existential exploration, numerous individuals turn to religious institutions as beacons of guidance, hoping to find answers that resonate with their spiritual yearnings. But here's a thought to ponder. Are these institutions truly reflecting the teachings of Jesus, the epitome of love, acceptance, and service? Or have they, in some way, distorted his message, reshaping it to fit their own narratives and agendas? In this quest for spiritual enlightenment, it's crucial to critically examine these questions. In our pursuit of spirituality, have we lost sight of the true message? Jesus taught us to love and accept one another. But do some religions promote discrimination and hatred? Imagine, if you will, the teachings of Jesus, pure and unadulterated, emphasizing love, acceptance, and unity. He spoke of the importance of loving your neighbor as yourself, and he didn't specify any conditions. Your neighbor could be anyone, the person living next door, a stranger on the street, or even someone from a different cultural background. The message was clear and universal: love and acceptance for all. But now let's juxtapose this with some of the practices we see in modern religions. It might be surprising, even shocking, to see how far we've strayed. Some religious institutions, unfortunately, seem to be promoting discrimination and exclusion, the very antitheses of Jesus' teachings. They segregate, discriminate, and even propagate hatred in the name of religion. It's like trying to mix oil and water. It just doesn't blend. You might ask, how did this happen? How did we move from love and acceptance to discrimination and hatred? The answer could be as simple as human interpretation. Over centuries, people have interpreted religious teachings to suit their personal beliefs and biases. Some have used religion as a tool to assert power and control, leading to distortion of the original teachings. The irony and contradiction here are palpable. If Jesus were here today, he might be taken aback by the stark contrast between his teachings and some of the practices carried out in his name. He might ask, "Is this what you understood from my teachings? Is this how you chose to express your faith?" Let's not forget, Jesus was a champion of the underdog. He reached out to the marginalized, the outcasts, the sinners. He didn't discriminate. He loved and accepted all. Shouldn't we, as his followers, strive to do the same? In the end, it all boils down to this: religion should unite us, not divide us. It's high time we revisited the true teachings of Jesus, focusing on love, acceptance, and unity. After all, isn't that what religion is supposed to be about? Let's ensure that we're promoting unity, not division, in our pursuit of spirituality. Have some religious institutions become more interested in wealth and power? Shouldn't faith be about humility and service, like Jesus taught? Let's take a moment to ponder on this. If we peruse the annals of religious history, it's clear that a concerning trend has emerged. An interesting evolution, if you will, of the so-called prosperity gospel. This is a teaching that suggests a divine right to achieve material wealth and status, a direct contradiction to the teachings of Jesus. Jesus, the carpenter's son from Nazareth, taught his followers about humility and service. He washed the feet of his disciples, a task usually reserved for the lowest servant. He dined with tax collectors and sinners, shattering the societal norms of his time. He urged his followers to be servants of all, placing others' needs before their own. Yet today, we see religious leaders living in opulence, flying in private jets, and leading lives that are far removed from the teachings of the humble carpenter. This shift in focus from humility and service to wealth and power is not just troubling, it's downright alarming. Now let's not get it twisted. There's nothing inherently wrong with wealth or power. The problem arises when these become the driving force of our spiritual journey, overshadowing the true essence of faith. When the pursuit of wealth and power supersedes the call to love, serve, and show humility, we've strayed far from the path Jesus laid out for us. The teachings of Jesus were radical for their time and continue to challenge us today. They call us to a life of selflessness, of putting others before ourselves, of loving our neighbors as ourselves. They call us to serve, not to be served, to give, not just to receive. Jesus was a healer, yet some religious leaders prioritize personal gain over helping those in need. Is this what Jesus envisioned for his followers? Well, the answer seems pretty clear, doesn't it? It's high time we reclaim the essence of our faith, shifting our focus back to humility and service, just like Jesus taught us. Jesus embraced all, even those society rejected. Shouldn't we do the same? This is a question that perhaps we all need to ask ourselves. Jesus in his time was a beacon of acceptance and love, welcoming everyone into his fold. He opened his arms to the poor, the sick, the sinners, and all those deemed unworthy by society. His actions were guided by compassion and understanding, not judgment and exclusion. Imagine a world where everyone, regardless of their past, their social status, their beliefs, or their mistakes, is welcomed with open arms. That's the world Jesus envisioned. He didn't just preach about love and acceptance, he lived it, and he urged his followers to do the same. Yet, fast forward to our times, and we find that some religious practices seem to have strayed far from this principle. Certain groups are deemed unfit, sinful, or impure and are excluded from religious communities. This not only creates divisions, but also fosters feelings of rejection and alienation. But let's take a moment to reflect. Isn't it ironic that institutions proclaiming to follow Jesus' teachings are the ones sometimes fostering this exclusion? And here's a funny thought. Imagine if Jesus had a social media account today. Would he block or unfollow people who disagreed with him? Or would he engage in dialogue, trying to understand their perspectives? I think we all know the answer to that. We need to remember that Jesus' teachings were rooted in love, acceptance, and inclusivity. He even embraced those who betrayed him. In his eyes, everyone was worthy of love and forgiveness. He told us in Matthew 22 that the entire Bible hangs on love. If we want to interpret Scripture correctly, it has to be through the lens of love. And let's not forget the ultimate act of embracing all, his sacrifice. Jesus sacrificed himself for the salvation of humanity. This was the ultimate act of love and acceptance. He gave his life for everyone, without exception. He didn't pick and choose who was worthy of his sacrifice. But do some religious practices shift the focus away from this ultimate sacrifice? Do they instead focus on maintaining power structures, enforcing rules, and excluding those who don't fit their mold? If so, it's time to reevaluate and remember Jesus' true message of embracing all. Jesus' teachings emphasized unity, love, and compassion. Shouldn't our religious practices reflect these values? As we delve deeper into the heart of Jesus' teachings, we can't help but be struck by the stark contrast between his message and the practices of some modern religious institutions. It's time to reflect on our own beliefs. Do they mirror the love, acceptance, and unity that Jesus championed? Are we living out his teachings, or have we allowed them to be distorted by personal biases or societal pressures? The journey to spiritual enlightenment isn't a straight path. It's a winding road filled with introspection and growth. And it's never too late to realign our practices with the true teachings of Jesus. But how do we do this? How do we steer clear of corrupted interpretations and embrace the original teachings of Jesus? Well, the first step is understanding what those teachings are. Jesus preached a message of love, not just for those who look like us, think like us, or believe like us, but for all. He taught us to embrace humility, to serve others without expecting anything in return, and to stand up against injustice, even if it means standing alone. He also emphasized unity. In a world that often seems divided along every possible line, it's easy to forget that we all belong to the same human family. We need to remember that every person we meet, regardless of their race, religion, or background, is our brother or sister. And finally, Jesus stressed compassion. He showed us that to truly follow him, we must open our hearts to the suffering of others. We must not only offer them our prayers, but also our help. We must be willing to step out of our comfort zones, to reach out to those in need, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in our world today. Let's embrace the true teachings of Jesus and not be blinded by corrupted interpretations. Let's rediscover Jesus' message of love, acceptance, and service. It's not an easy path, but it's the one that leads to true spiritual enlightenment. It's the path that brings us closer to the heart of Jesus.
We are constantly making new content to help you on your walk of faith. Please like and subscribe to make sure you stay up to date with the latest content.